Hey, Mr. Howard here again for the next segment of analysis on my novel, Faraday's Mirror. Last time I read chapters 4 and 5. Both of these chapters really are still doing, folding in some exposition, developing characterization, trying to get the reader emotionally invested in the characters and the family and the situation, and of course building that tension, because in the prologue we know that the house is going to burn down, and we don't really know when that's going to happen. So we're doing a lot of things here. I'm also inserting the beginnings of some of the themes that are going to be important as the story goes on, and doing some foreshadowing and stuff like that. So a lot of the stuff that you see other authors do in their early chapters are being done by me in my early chapters of the novel here. So let me roll through. First off, we read chapter 4, which is called Jumanji. Obviously, the title itself is an allusion to a 1995 movie with Robin Williams. There have been a couple of remakes with Jack Black, so it's both current and old, and that's an intentional sort of tie-in between the time it's written and the time it's set. But of course, the plot line of the story is very important in terms of foreshadowing to the plot of the novel. It's about two siblings, a brother and a sister, who get sucked into this Victorian board game, sort of, where the board game actually infects their world, which is different. But they have this adventure and barely survive, and it sort of affirms the bonds of their relationship as brother and sister, and there's like family themes and stuff like that. So there's a lot of connections, and it's a young adult story or movie. So there's a lot of connections that can be made there, and it ties in well with the setting, and that's intentional. So the chapter actually doesn't talk too much about Jumanji. It just has them leaving the theater, and we introduce a new character. So I give you Charlie, the dad, and he's introduced through a couple of characterizations. Now, Charlie is a college professor at Plymouth State University, and so my dad's a college professor. Charlie's a history professor. My dad's a biology professor. There's some major differences, and Charlie is as much me as a dad as he is my dad as a dad. And there's some Arthur Weasley in there, and some other, sort of amalgamation of character traits. But Charlie is outraged about certain aspects of the movie, and that helps develop his character, and also lays some foundational work. So you get Byron, starting to think about telling his parents that they're building the mirror. That sows a little bit of tension. And then we have the dad outrage that in the movie, the hunter that's hunting Robin Williams' character is the same actor that played his father. And so it puts this idea that dads want to hunt and kill their children, which is super disturbing to him. And he tells Byron that if Byron ever gets sucked into a board game, he's going to hunt him, not to kill him, but to save him. Anybody who's paying any attention to the story knows this is thematic, and that this is going to connect father and son relationships, and the idea, maybe it's foreshadowing that, Charlie's gonna try and go and save his son, which it totally is. So that's, I think, going on in this chapter. We also have a little bit more with Felicity. Cole didn't go with them to the movie theater because he's a workaholic. It shows his desire to build this mirror, and his ambition to achieve his goals and stuff like that. So we're getting a little bit of characterization with Cole not coming, but also of Felicity, who's afraid to experience that empty nest syndrome. She knows that Cole's going off to college theoretically next year, and so she's already anticipating that, and we get a little bit of that as well. There's also some fun with puns and stuff like that. So that's sort of what that chapter does, and it's a brief sort of transition chapter. We're showing time going by while Cole is working on the mirror. Then we have chapter 5, which is Christmas. Obviously, this is the time period in which this is set. It's sort of when Jumanji came out, and we know that in February the house is going to burn down, and so time is sort of ticking here. But it's nice to read a Christmas chapter. A lot of people can relate to that through their own experiences, and so we get sort of a snapshot of Christmas at the Oaks house. Again, we characterize Felicity and Byron and the dad a little bit. We give a little bit of backstory here and there. This is a chapter that's full of allusions that tie into the time period and sort of establish the setting. We got some period video games. We've got some period technological developments and stuff like that. But I think the most important things that come out of this chapter and there's a couple of them. Number one, during the saying grace and the moment of thankfulness that so many families have on a holiday like Christmas, Charlie talks about family and how important family is, and that they're lucky that they've got a family that's thicker than politics and stuff like that. And Felicity reminds him of his own brother Jack. And Jack and Charlie are estranged, so they're brothers who have sort of fallen out of contact with each other over a political dispute. And of course, this is important. This is a story about brothers, and the brothers that we're primarily focused on are Cole and Byron, but Charlie and Jack are sort of a mirror image of them, like advanced in the future. And so to see them separated, makes you question brotherhood and some of those themes that are coming. And of course, it's going to foreshadow future events. Jack is going to become a character in the story that matters, and so we're sort of introducing him a little bit in this chapter. So we've got that, and then we have this lie that Cole tells his parents about building a computer, that he's building a computer now instead of the truth, which is that he's building the Faraday mirror. And Byron goes along with it, but at the end we go upstairs and we see Cole. We also lay the foundation that Cole is interested in having a relationship. He's interested in this girl, Melissa French, who he's messaging online all the time. They used to have this thing called AIM. It was America Online's Instant Messenger. It's basically like Facebook Messenger or Twitter, Messenger or whatever. You just type messages back and forth, and it dings when you get one. But he's messaging this girl every night, and Cole is trying to give him advice about the relationship, and he doesn't want to take it. And we get this ironic moment where he's like, I don't manipulate people I like. And Byron's like, what about mom and dad? And so he sort of drops that bomb there, and you get this tension building that, Cole is a little bit hypocritical and maybe lying to himself about what he's doing. But he says he wants to ask for forgiveness, not permission. And he's going to continue with this secret creation of the mirror. So, I think that's most of the important stuff that comes out of those chapters. But really, we're getting a sense of the family and who they are, and the time period and the setting, and hopefully getting some sort of an emotional investment in the characters, knowing it's important to know who they are before they go through any kind of a portal, so that we've got an established base, and hopefully that groundwork is being laid for you in a way that's interesting and, those sorts of things. So I'm going to call this done, and I'm going to read you 2 more chapters and upload them all today, and hopefully you continue to enjoy Faraday's Mirror.